Bedtime Stories with the Story Club for Kids. Hello, children. It's time to wind up for the day and settle down for the night. I hope all of you have brushed your teeth and are ready for bed. Now, let's begin our first bedtime story for tonight. This story is called A Crab Named Crazy Claus. There wasn't a single soul on the beach who hadn't heard of Crazy Claus, the formidable enemy of toes and the most feared crab on this side of the ocean. Every year, an absent-minded tourist would get a great pinch on his or her toe that made them leave and not want to come back to that same beach. Scared swimmers would often get together to try and catch the crab, but every time they thought they had succeeded, the pinches returned to let them know they had caught the wrong crab. Crazy Claus had a mean streak, but he was also very clever. Instead of concealing himself and going unnoticed like all the other crabs, he would hide in the sand and prepare for his attack. Crazy Claus was a little resentful and angry because, as a baby crab, he was stepped on by a child and had lost a leg. The leg did grow back, but it was shorter than his other legs. And he was very upset every time he looked at the short leg. He was thinking about how mean swimmers could be when he spotted his next victim. It was a big, fat, shiny toe, and its owner was barely moving. How easy, thought Crazy Claus. Now he could pinch with all his strength. He remembered the different steps he had to follow. Emerge, move forward, pinch, release, retreat, and disappear into the sand again. Go, get them, Crazy Claus. But something went wrong. Crazy Claus got stuck on the fourth step and was unable to release the toe. His pinch was so strong that he had broken through the skin and got stuck in the flesh. Flesh? It couldn't be. There was no blood. Only then did Crazy Claus realize it was a trap. But Crazy Claus was exaggerating as always. He thought that no one could be so smart as to trap him with a fake toe. It sure was a fake toe, and it belonged to someone who was a little girl called Vera, who had lost her leg in an accident when she was little. She didn't even realize that Crazy Claus was attached to her toe until she came out of the water to go and play in the sand. She released the crab, but he didn't run off because he was very scared. Vera discovered that Crazy Claus had a shorter leg and she felt bad for him, so she decided to help him. She made him a wonderful little house using rocks and fetched him a nice bunch of sand to shelter his house. Wow, thought Crazy Claus. This girl sure can look after a crab. She was happy, fun, and most importantly, she put him back in the sea before leaving. What a lovely girl, thought Crazy Claus that night. I'd like to be just as nice as her. If only I didn't have this one short leg. It was in that moment that Crazy Claus realized that Vera's leg had never grown back, and that children aren't like crabs. They only have two legs, and her leg never grew back, and yet she was still really nice. He could certainly be a happy crab even though he had been through very difficult times. The very next day and every day after that, during that summer, Crazy Claus attacked Vera's toe again so he could play with her all day. Together, they learned how to turn pinches into tickles and a bad temper into laughter and glee. In the end, Vera's crab became very famous on that beach, though nobody suspected that it was the same old crab known as Crazy Claus. The end. And now, let us listen to our next story. This story is called An Insignificant Task. The day when the jobs were handed out was one of the most exciting for all the children in class. It took place during the first week of the new term. On that day, every boy and girl in class was given a job for which they would be responsible for the rest of that school year. As with everything, some jobs were more interesting than others, and the children were eager to be given one of the best ones. When giving them out, the teacher took into account which pupils had been most responsible during the previous year, and those children were the ones who most looked forward to this day. Among them, Rita stood out. She was a kind and quiet girl, and during the previous year, she had carried out the teacher's instructions perfectly. All the children knew Rita was the favorite to be given the best job of all, to look after the class dog. But that year, there was a big surprise. Each child received one of the normal jobs, like preparing the books or the radio for the lessons, telling the time, cleaning the blackboard, or looking after one of the pets. But Rita's job was very different. She was given a little box containing some sand and one ant. And even though the teacher insisted that this ant was a very special ant, Rita could not help feeling disappointed. Most of her classmates felt sorry for her. They sympathized with her and remarked at how unfair it was that she had been given that job. But Rita trusted her teacher and was determined to make the most of even this simplest of jobs. I will turn this little task into something significant, Rita promised herself. So it was that Rita started investigating all about her little land. She learned about the different species of ants and studied everything about their habits and behavior. She modified the little box to make it perfect for the ant. Rita gave the ant the very best food, and it ended up growing quite big and bigger than anyone had expected. One day in spring, when they were in the classroom, the door opened, revealing a man who looked rather important. The teacher interrupted the class with great joy and said, "This is Dr. Martinez. He has come to tell us a wonderful piece of news. Isn't that right, Doctor?" "Exactly," said Dr. Martinez. "Today they have published results of the competition, and this class has been chosen to accompany me this summer on a journey to the tropical rainforest, where we will be investigating all kinds of insects. Among all the schools of this region, without doubt, it is this one which has best cared for the most delicate of all, the tiny little ant given to you. Congratulations! You will be wonderful assistants on this new journey of ours. That day, the school was filled with joy and celebration. Everyone was thrilled at the surprise win and congratulated the teacher for entering them into this competition. And of course, they thanked Rita for having been so patient and responsible with caring for the tiny little ant. And so it was that many children learned that to be given the most important tasks, you have to know how to be responsible even in what are apparently the smallest tasks. And without doubt, it was Rita who was most pleased with this outcome, as she had promised herself that she would turn this simple little task of caring for this tiny little ant into something significant. So that's how the children learned the lesson that no task is small and no responsibility is to be taken lightly. The end. And that's all for tonight. Good night, sleep tight, and don't let the bed bugs bite. Bye bye, children.